talking, be sure to ask them using the blue button on the right-hand side on the bottom. So I'll throw it over to Jason. Jason, take it away.
Hey, Megan, thank you so much, and welcome everybody. Today, I will be going over some core principles that we use when we talk about leading ArtSpeak Creative. So, these are what we would call core values, but I think they really play into the principles that really create a healthy culture. How to build a creative team people want to be a part of was our tagline for the breakout session at Exponential a few weeks ago, where Kirk and I were able to teach on these principles together. Today, Kirk Haddon is out, not feeling 100%, so I'm going to fly solo. I'd really like to be able to get into some really great conversation because many of you that are live on this call, man, you're a part of this. You're a part of these principles. You live them every day. You help create them. You helped us identify them. So I'd love to hear questions or feedback and thoughts and really get to some of that. So even while we're talking, I'm going to try to keep one eye on the Q&A. We don't necessarily have to wait to the end. The only thing I digress about teaching is I miss out on all the great banter in the channels, in both in the online community Slack channel, but also in the audience channel right here. So I miss out on inside jokes, and so just feel free to talk amongst yourselves. But if you have any questions about what we're talking about, that would be awesome too. So I think also the other disclaimer I wanted to give is how to build a creative team people want to be a part of. I think these principles build culture that people want to be a part of. And I've talked a long time about having great salsa, right? If you're going to start a Mexican restaurant, then I recommend having great salsa, because if you have terrible salsa, then the marketing of ArtSpeak, you could hire ArtSpeak to get the word out for your company, and we're going to get a lot of traction there. But we're going to ruin your company. We're going to ruin your business faster because more people will know that you have terrible sauce. So have good salt. Have good sauce. Get the sauce right. But then two, here's my theory that you could have the best salsa, but if the people who make the salsa hate making the salsa, then my theory is I would be able to feel it if I visited. Right? I'm going to take a bite of a chip. I'm gonna be like, I don't know. I mean, the salsa is good, but there's just something about this place. I don't think that anyone else wants to be here. I don't want to be. I think you could feel it. I think the opposite is true, that if you have good sauce, you have to have good sauce. But after that, if everyone who makes it loves making it, then I don't think you could help stop the growth, right? I don't care if you're selling chips and salsa or you're selling dental implants or new buildings or church services or communion or whatever you're selling. I don't think you could help the growth slow down because people love making the sauce with you. And here's something that I think probably many in our culture, but often the church world has forgotten, that those who make the sauce are the secret sauce. And so key ingredients are walking out the door all the time, man, especially when it comes to creatives, right? Because man, sometimes we're leveraged. Creatives are leveraged in our culture. You got to have the deadline. You got to have it done. And it's not fun to be a part of, but man, you're doing it for Jesus. You're doing it for the kingdom. And I think there's some major landmines that we can step on as leaders when we start creating culture that people don't want to be a part of. So create a culture that people want to be a part of, especially if you're a creative, especially for creatives. Of course, that's our calling. That's our heart. That was actually our heart and our calling when starting the online community, because I felt like this is my favorite team I've ever been a part of. Some of you that are on the team were like, this is a great culture. I like it. We're not utopia, but man, it's something we want to be a part of. And I thought, man, how can we invite more people into that culture? How can we give away that culture? Well, ArtSpeak Creative Community, right? This is the online community for church creatives. You're a part of it today. We're live, or you're watching it, the replay. But man, drop a question. Even if this is a replay, please don't hesitate. Go in the Slack channel, drop a question, post it in Mighty Networks. We'd love to get back to you and have you a part of this culture. So, how to build a creative team people want to be a part of. Key cultural insights from ArtSpeak's history. We can get into the history. I kind of want to get through these. These are our core values, but again, I think there are principles that will work in any culture to make it something people want to be a part of. So the first one, it's about people. This is about people. I a people, you a people, we a people, right? And this is about people. People have value, and people might rub you the wrong way. There might be difficulties, and people get thrown under. People get. I was about to say people get thrown under the bus, but that's a terrible metaphor. I'm not going to use that one again today. But it is about people. We are human beings serving other humans. They're in a real context. They have real issues going on. And so it's about people. If we can think about putting people first, not policies, not procedures, where we want, in fact, let's make systems and strategies and policies and procedures through the lens that we are serving people, right? So our clients are people. They are real humans. And sometimes it's so easy. And I think this is where conflict emerges when we begin to personify people, right? Have you ever been to a zoo or a park where for the little kids, my niece is 3, so she got one done last time they went to the local museum, and it was a caricature. It looked like her, but like her bow was huge and her smile was giant, and it looked enough like her where she was like, this is me. But it was a caricature. It was an overinflation of some elements that might resemble that person. Man, that happens in leadership. That happens in life. That's when there's conflict. They overinflate a part of that person, and it really creates a caricature of that person. And here's what we have to remember. If you're in the middle of leadership, you're in the middle of a conflict, it's about people. That's a person. Don't overinflate one characteristic of them in order to talk about them, because then the picture you might be painting might resemble them, but it may not be an accurate definition. So we're giving people the benefit of the doubt. We think about the good before the bad. In fact, we were just on an on-site. We were talking about a reactive cycle. My wife and I get some marriage training. We talked about the reactive cycle, where you have an event in any relationship. That event then, you have a choice to how do you interpret that event in your brain. The event happens, the conversation, the accusation, the comment, the rolling of the eyes, whatever it is, you interpret that event, and you have a choice there. Do I interpret it with a good story, or do I interpret it with a bad story? And then I have my action based on my interpretation, and that action then creates an event for the other party. And now that person also can interpret and has a choice to make. A friend of mine told a story just last week about putting the kids down for bed, and it went terrible. His wife was out with her friends, and he was supposed to be writing a book. So he finally got sat down, started writing, and he hears her come into the kitchen and immediately remembers that the dishes are still in the sink. And he has that rush of adrenaline. Husbands, if you've ever been there, I know. And then he hears his wife out loud say, "What, am I the maid?" And he immediately floods with, oh my gosh, like she doesn't know how bad the kids were. Why does she need to pick on me? I told her I needed to get this work done tonight. But he instead chose to tell a better story about how maybe it wasn't directed at me. Maybe I'm misinterpreting what she said. Maybe it's not about me. He chooses not to react, doesn't go rushing in there and get defensive. She walks in and starts apologizing to him because she had asked the kids to do the dishes. He didn't know that. Her frustration was with the kids. And he's like, I am so glad I chose to tell a better story and not react. We can choose a better story when we remember it's about people. You're dealing with people. They're not perfect. They're broken. They've got issues, but we can choose a better story. That then allows us to take a proactive action about what kind of action, what do we want to create in someone's mind? What kind of response do we want to have? So we think about that for us at ArtSpeak with our clients. They are people. Our clients are serving people, which those of you on the messaging team, sometimes we are trying to convince them that to think about that ideal person and what they might be like and what they might be going through and how empathy really does work. So they're serving people. And though our team is people. So if you're watching this and you're on a team, you have people, you're surrounded by people, you're serving other people. And there's very few industries that aren't that. And so All of these, that's foundational. Let's just remember that we are humans with great potential, maybe some issues. We've all got issues. If you don't think you have an issue, that's your issue. But like we are people, and we can honor that, we can respect it, and we can choose to tell a better story. Second one, make gratitude your operating system. And if you're a leader at any kind, even in your own home, like look for way gratitude works. That attitude of gratitude, it is like gratitude itself. You could be grateful for gratitude. Like it is such a blessing to be grateful. The opportunity that we have to breathe air. I mean, if you can just start thinking about like the neurons that are firing in our mind, the perception of reality that we get to have, the interaction with other humans, and it could be anything, but make gratitude your operating system. Kirk has a phenomenal teaching on this. We've taught on it before, so I'm not going to go into all the details that he would normally unpack about the neuroscience and the different parts of the brain. I do know this, that there is a part of the brain that the scientists call the lizard brain, and it is where we either fight or we flight. Most people fight or flight. That's some people freeze, but I'm a fighter, and meaning I'm just gonna, if somebody comes at me hot, my initial reaction is to come back hot. The problem when you're in that level of thinking is you're not creative, you're not connected, and often your heart towards others, it's about people, begins to close down. So I think biblically, theologically, gratitude opens us up for more. If you're like, I just want to get to the next level of my life, how do I get to the next level? Gratitude will open you up for that. But neurologically, gratitude, by being thankful, will take you out of the amygdala and the lizard brain and get you back into that frontal lobe where creativity happens and opportunity happens. And so one of the things that a little life hack, when I was feeling stuck and lost and frustrated and not sure where to go in life, I just began to look for the little things that I felt God might have provided, right? Like manna in the wilderness. And I had an encouragement to just write them down in a note in my phone. And it might just be a little blessing. Sometimes we're looking for a huge blessing to be thankful for. When I have all of the money and all of the time and all of the favor and all of the people and everything's wonderful, then I can be really grateful. But what it began to show me was if I could look for the little things like the color blue or a glass of fresh water or a green light or a funny joke or just the prayers of my wife or something wonderful that my kid did, like just little things, I began to make a note and write down just a list of gratitude. I called it the note in my phone, I called it manna. And as I reviewed that, man, it was just such an easy way to get out of fight or flight reflex and back into that creative opportunity. Who do I want to be? What could we create together? So make gratitude your operating system. As an organization, we do it. We start almost every meeting with wins, with gratitudes. What are you grateful for this week? And it could be anything from your puppy to a new sale or just somebody you're just super grateful for work. And it does something powerful. And I know Kirk's got studies on this, but it does something powerful when you hear when you hear somebody be grateful for you, man, just fills that tank in your heart. Is, man, wow, I'm in a culture that I'm celebrated. That's awesome. I think it's healthy for us to express gratitude towards others. Like, I'm grateful for you. I'm thankful for these other people. But it also elevates the thinking and gets others into a better place of thinking when they're a part of a culture where gratitude is expressed. It has a benefit from those that are listening in. So make gratitude your operating system. It's so crazy to me because I get a chance to coach other organizations and a lot of churches, a lot of nonprofits and so forth. It's so weird how I have to like sell gratitude. Like, people push back on we should start meetings being grateful. Oh, but friends, like some of you know, like we have a culture here, and I don't know if there's probably all these elements, and I know they all stack on top of each other, but this one about being grateful and the habits that we've built into this culture where we are able and willing and desiring to express that gratitude to one another, it has great fruit for you. So whether you're leading your family or you're leading a creative team at your church, or you're an entrepreneur and you got a new staff, or you're here a part of Art Speak Creative, like, man, be grateful, make gratitude your operating system. The next one is one that I taught on this all day yesterday at an on-site with a client. Lead with empathetic honesty. Like, this is at the heart of our communication triangle. It's really at the foundation of it. Because if you boil all of healthy communication, whether you're talking about marketing or you're talking about your marriage, you boil all of healthy communication down to one word. I think it's empathy. Now, I love at ArtSpeak how we've paired that with honesty, because honesty without empathy, man, that can be harsh, maybe even cruel. But honestly, empathy without honesty could also be cruel, because it could be manipulation. So sometimes we have boundaries to set. That's a healthy thing. But I'm going to do it first by thinking through what others might be thinking through. First by thinking through what others might be feeling. And if we can do our best to understand who they are, why? Because it's about people. And we're grateful for other people. You see how these stack on top of each other. So now I'm going to do my best to put myself in their shoes. What is the time of day? What is their context? What's been going on in their life? What's on their plate? Are they stressed? And then I'm going to give them an opportunity for me to express that I understand where they might be, or I think what they might think. I think what they might think. That is empathy. And then I'm going to give them a chance to say yes or no to that. And then I may have to say, honestly, like, this was said or this was done, and just help me understand. So I'm not attacking, but I'm trying to be empathetic and honest. Those two things seem like they'd be opposite, but man, they work well together. Another one that seems like a paradox, but I don't think it is at all, and that is practice confident humility. Practice confident humility. Confidence and humility are not oxymorons. These are friends, right? In fact, people who pretend that they're overly confident and their cockiness, to me, it's because they're not confident. People who aren't humble aren't confident. They're cocky. It's fake. It's because they're hiding a deep insecurity. I like what Kirk says, that he thinks all conflict comes probably, or 95%, from an insecurity somewhere. No doubt. Sometimes we have to, our buttons in our heart, our childhood wounds, are the things that trigger us and send our emotions off and help us make a bad story and interpret those actions in a negative way. And they're coming somewhere from a hurt, a wound, an insecurity. So the more we can pause, the more we can say, you know what? Confidence says, I have value. Friends, you have value. You are a pro. Somebody pays you something to do something. You're a professional, right? You may not be the top of the class yet. You may not be the best in the world, but man, or you might be, but you can have confidence because you have value to add. Humility says, so does everyone else. I have value, and so do you. And so therefore we can be confident, a calm confidence. Not honestly, Kirk here at ArtSpeak, he's my calm confidence mentor, has been for years. And we were in church leadership together, and I just love, here's a habit that comes out of a calm confidence, a habit that we've lived among, and we have at ArtSpeak that is based on confident humility. And it's, in my mind, it is the habit of asking clarifying questions. Because when somebody comes in hot, or I don't think this was right, I don't think that was right. Like your spouse, why are the dishes not done? Your kids, they've got their issues. I don't have an illustration, but if you can ask clarifying questions, well, tell me what's going on about that. Where was the thing? When was that promise? And you just start, one, being calm, then they start mirroring being calm, because you're choosing to tell a different story that's grace-filled and has their best, because it's about people, and you're going to be empathetic and honest. Man, you seem really upset by this, right? That'd be overwhelming. I hate when I get overwhelmed. Tell me what's overwhelming about this. Where was there a miss in your mind? And you let them start unpacking. One, they calm down, and now we're trying to find a solution. We're not trying to point a finger. We're just asking clarifying questions. And sometimes if you ask why one time, why did that happen? You'll find a person's fault. Someone's at fault. But if you ask why enough times, if you ask why 5 times, you're probably going to find a system or a system that needs tweaked or created. So practice confident humility. Be confident. Know that you're pro. Know that you have value to add. But so does other people. The next one is pursue imperfect excellence. Imperfect excellence, again, another one that seems like a paradox, but it's not. And I love the word pursue there, because we're not gonna achieve, we're not gonna arrive at perfection, right? We're not be perfect. Excellence doesn't mean perfection. It just means, man, this is good. This is achieving its goal. It's going to be effective and it's going to be efficient. So I love something Kirk and I have been working on in the conversation as we move forward even in our business model and our service offerings and the things that we do. We want to optimize for excellence, because we think if we can do it well, then we won't have to do it multiple times. And man, multiple times, even if we could optimize for speed, then you could optimize for speed, but you might make mistakes in that speed, and now you're gonna have to do it over and over again and over again. But if you could optimize for excellence, and like especially with what we do in client services with branding and web, if we can get it right the first time and we get first round approval or second round approval, man, that's actually going to be faster. What if excellence was actually faster than this optimization for speed? So imperfect excellence. I love excellence as a core value because of this last one. I want to get better and better at what we do. So expect persistent growth. Expect it. Like, you should be growing. And in fact, if you're in a season of life where you're not growing personally, then man, let me just encourage you, like, to figure out some little things that you can begin to do that will help you stimulate growth. I think one of my favorite things about ArtSpeak is it's just such an inspiring culture to be a learner. I'm just constantly learning. I'm kind of overwhelmed at all of the resources, which is what also part of why we should create an online community for creatives. Because man, look at all these resources we have. I don't want to hoard all of these books ideas and all these article ideas and all of the resources that our team gleans and shares. Like, let's give away what we're learning from. Let's give away the kind of culture that expects persistent growth. So start with yourself, because you're a person and you have value to add. How are you growing? And you can break down your life into different categories. I recommend that as a homework assignment. What are the areas of your life that you would love to see growth? Physical wellness. For me, my health and wellness immediately translates into spiritual health and wellness. And I know some of you are more spiritual than me, but for me, if I'm working out and I'm exercising, I'm eating right, I'm just more likely to read my Bible and pray. Now, I know maybe I'm backwards in that, but those habits for me work that way. So yeah, spiritually, physically, financially, relationally, with my family, with my friends, with my church, ministry wise, when I'm going to give out, expect persistent growth. Say my reading life, and not just devotional reading, but what am I learning? What am I growing in? And then, I mean, that's why we have events like this. This is why we're doing this, is because it's just hopefully another layer. Sometimes on these calls, ArtSpeak University, we're gonna learn about the hierarchy of font, or how to the anatomy of a landing page. But today we're talking about big picture, 30,000 foot, how to create a culture people want to be a part of. I think there are these 6 pillars. There might be more. There might be, that you've dialed in on, but here's the ones that we're finding that are bearing fruit in our own personal lives and in our team life. And it's about people. Gratitude is our operating system. Leading with empathetic honesty, it just works. Practicing confident humility, pursuing imperfect excellence, and then expecting persistent growth. So I'd love to open it up to some Q&A, and I can jump in this channel, or Megan can jump back in. You guys were already posting here. I missed that. Thank you, Ryan. I'll jump back. See, how do you make gratitude not feel forced or inauthentic? That's a good one. I'll move on to the next one too. How do you, like, what if it feels forced? Is it less effective? This is the question behind your question, Bella. Is gratitude less effective if you force it? That's a good question. I don't know. I know Kirk used to practice smile. I call it smiling is my favorite, because there was a whole season where Kirk just decided he was going to start smiling on the entire drive into the office, which I think was about 15, 20 minutes for him. And he would just smile. I've tried it and it works. I'm telling you, you can smile. And the thing is, it's literally forced and it feels awkward. You try it, practice it. You have 10 minutes, you have a transition, you have something to do later. Just smile the whole time. And it completely fake, completely forced. You're forcing your brain to smile, but then the brain starts looking for reasons why you're smiling. And all of a sudden you start finding them and you're like, oh yeah, there's a hospital. It's cool to live in a culture with hospitals. Oh, a bridge over a river probably hasn't always existed. Good coffee, the color blue, the color green, it's whatever, clouds. That's fun. Like I didn't think of that, but they're there. And all of a sudden, and I'm telling you, I remember that when Kirk was doing this every single day, he would come into the office almost glowing. And by the time he got here, the smile was so genuine. So sometimes I think in leadership, you have to push through the awkward. We were just on an on-site and we were in a team meeting and there was about 10 of us and I really wanted it to be interactive. So I just gave some really awkward long pauses at the beginning when I would ask a question and I would let it be silent. And some of the people got nervous. They didn't like it. They're ha ha ha. And I was like, oh, what's funny? And they're like, just the awkward silence. So they're even calling me out on creating awkward silence. But I allowed that. But within an hour, everyone was engaged. Every time I'd ask a question, everyone at the table would want to answer. And it was because they began to trust that I didn't have the answer to the question I was asking. And I wasn't going to blow anyone out. I created a spot of trust. I wasn't going to speak. I legitimately wanted to hear from them. It was forced at the beginning and it became very natural. I would say the same thing can happen with gratitude in your culture. Force it, try it, practice it personally. Start your dinner time with a gratitude. I'm so grateful for this family, and just see what happens. What are you guys grateful for today? Start your meeting with it. It might be forced at times. There might be awkward transitions and segues. That can be something people are grateful for later on. Megan, I see you. Maybe you've got one teed up.
Yeah, this is great insight, Jason. We do have a couple more questions here. We have one from Ryan. He's asking, what was one of the hardest "this is about people" lessons that you've had to learn?
Man, that's a really good question, Ryan. This is about people. One of the hardest. Man, you always want to do right by people, and if you do what's right, I will say, here's a lesson that I don't like, but it's so true. And I didn't just learn it at Art Speak. I've seen it play out there. People will never remember how they treated you, but they will always remember how you treated them. I ran into somebody at the licensing department because it was my birthday this weekend and my license had expired. And so I drove for like 10 miles and got my license renewed Monday morning. I ran into somebody who treated me poorly, but I was kind to him. And that consistency, it's about people, they make mistakes, and it allowed me to be kind again. And that person was kind to me in the line, that you could tell that they did not even know that I knew that they, that I had any issue. Again, like I'm not in relationship every day, so there's a boundary thing there. I'm not saying you just always be kind to people. Sometimes, always be kind, but there's a way. Sometimes you have to set a boundary. I did with that. I removed myself from that organization, and but I was able. So that's a tough one because I want to tell everyone you treated me this poorly, and I'm mad. That's a tough one. I think there's been clients, there's the old adage that the client is always right. And I've just had enough clients to know that is not true. So you don't even have to have very many to know the client is not always right. And so, but it's about people. And so if you can lean in and listen and ask questions, I think also just getting people talking, hearing their heart, both even in leadership, even in difficult leadership moments where you're like listening to their heart and all of a sudden, sometimes things come out and you can just go with what's in their heart, build the transition, build the conversation around what's in their heart. It's hard to have a relationship with somebody who has a hard heart. God even permitted divorce because of hard-heartedness. To create soft hearts, you have to have open hearts. To have open hearts, you have to have a safe environment. To create a safe environment, you have to nourish and care for people. They have to trust that this is a place where they're going to be nourished and they're going to be cared for. They're going to be appreciated and there's going to be resources for them. That's not always easy when there's sometimes conflict or somebody gets their emotions hurt and their heart closes down, then they react. But I've always found it beneficial to take the time to listen, apologize where necessary, and if necessary, absolutely. But then also just, man, keep nourishing people, keep being kind. I think in the end it wins. I don't know though. I'm not at the end of the race yet, Ryan, but hopefully those are good examples.
Yeah, those are great, Jason. We are out of time now. So if anyone has any additional questions, just go ahead and drop them in the ArtSpeak University Slack channel. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. Thank you, Jason, for sharing. This was fantastic. Lots of great insight, lots of great nuggets to take away from this. So yeah, join us in the Slack channel and in the ArtSpeak creative community, and we'll see you next week.